Tigray rebels blamed the government blockade in the region for the devastation that has left hundreds of thousands of people on the verge of starvation. The new research shows that combining malaria vaccine with a preventive drug can lower hospital admissions and deaths by more than 70%. Plus, South Africa Airlines set to resume operations in September after struggling with losses amid the pandemic. Hello everyone, and thanks for joining us on the program today. I'm Teniola Shuboale. We begin with reports that rebel fighters in Ethiopia's Tigray region are blaming the government over a blockade, resulting in the devastation that has left nearly 1 million people on the verge of starvation. The federal government has turned the blame on them instead. The Tigray People's Liberation Front, which is fighting the government, says the health system in the region has been crippled and measures against COVID-19 are non-existent. It also says the economy is suffering, with banks having to close and power blackouts forcing companies out of business. The rebels say the international community's reluctance to take meaningful action against Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's government has prolonged the blockade. In a related development, officials in the Amara region say fighters from neighboring Tigray have killed at least 35 people and looted property in the South Gondar zone. Residents of Nafas Melcha town said 30 civilians were killed during days of fighting between the Tigrayan and federal and regional troops supported by local militias. They said government buildings, hospitals, schools, banks and homes were destroyed. An official in the city of Debre Tabor said 5 people were killed when their home was shelled. There's been no word so far from the Tigray People's Liberation Front, which has been fighting the federal government and its allies for 10 months now. Away from Ethiopia, the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, the Arab League and Saudi Arabia are working behind the scenes to get Algeria and Morocco on the same table after so-called hostile actions. That was the accusation Algeria put out on Tuesday when it said it had cut diplomatic relations with Morocco following months of resurgent tensions between the two countries. The OIS wants a dialogue to resolve any possible differences, while Saudi Arabia is calling on the nations to prioritize dialogue to help achieve security and stability. And the Arab League has urged both countries to exercise restraint and to avoid further escalation. Libya, which borders Algeria, said it deeply regrets the deterioration of relations and asked for restraint in a statement from the Foreign Ministry. Tripoli also called for regional talks on the sidelines of the next Arab League meeting scheduled for September the 7th to the 9th in Cairo. Heading down south now, workers of South Africa's ruling African National Congress, ANC, are beginning their strike over pay today. The ANC released a statement on Wednesday saying it received a notice from staff that they would go on strike for grievances, including late payments of salaries. It says its offices would be shut and that it would continue to engage with the staff over the matter. The party has been battling with a cash crisis for months, and the strike comes after it notified workers that their salaries for July and August would be delayed. Staying in South Africa, the country's national carrier, the South African Airlines, is set to resume operations next month after struggling with losses for months amid the coronavirus pandemic. The airline was recently privatized in an effort to save it. It has substantially shrunk its workforce from 4,700 to around 1,000 employees, essentially becoming a smaller airline. The reduction was achieved through voluntary severance packages and retrenchments. Flights will now resume on the 23rd of September, with the airline saying it will first begin with domestic routes before international flights resume. Let's talk to our South Africa Bureau Chief, Betty Dibia. Betty, it's great to see you. Just talk to us about the circumstances under which the airlines are resuming operations, having suffered huge losses, as we mentioned earlier.
Yeah, huge losses, not for months, for years, actually, because the government had been bailing the airline out, despite the lucrative, routes and agreements that they had. I guess it all boils down to probably mismanagement because it was wholly owned by government. But in this case, I know we had heard earlier that they will be back up in the skies by July. But now, because of issues, probably COVID and so many other issues that they had, they now moved it to September 23rd. And there will be some local and then some regional. We have a list according to the statement that was released on their Twitter account. Recall that the airline had been, is now owned by 51%, not government now, but by a consortium called Takatso Consortium, after it finished the business rescue operation, the plan to resuscitate it. So part of that was that the strategic equity partner was a consortium called Takatsu. They now own 51%, mostly private ownership. So they're trying to get the airline back up, which is what has led us to this point. And according to the interim CEO, they will be starting with flights from Johannesburg to Cape Town and some lucrative routes. They mentioned Accra, that's Ghana, Kinshasa, the DRC, Harare, Zimbabwe, Zambia, to Lusaka, and Maputo, which is in Mozambique. Of course, we expected Lagos to be there, but you know that South Africa is currently red-listed by Nigeria because of the COVID numbers. Probably that could change, but they say they've done their homework, and that barring issues with the pilots and, of course, the unions, other outstanding issues for the unions, and probably COVID again, everything will go according to plan. That's by the 23rd of September.
All right, now that it's set to resume, have there been mass employments, and how buoyant is the industry to sustain SAA's return?
I wouldn't say massive employment now. You know, they're taking baby steps to get back up there. Mm-hmm. It's a good brand. It's been a brand probably on the African continent for some time, despite the issues of mismanagement. But they're taking baby steps. There's still outstanding issues with unions. Some are happy with the severance packages, some are not. There's still outstanding issues, probably with the pilot unions as well. So those are some of the things that they're looking at, but they're taking baby steps. And then generally, the aviation sector had been hit for over a year globally, you know, by COVID-19 and travel restrictions and the like. So they're hoping, and they put that caveat, barring any other issues with COVID-19, if things don't get worse than they already are. Locally, many of the airlines, the local flying routes of the airlines operating had paused their operations. Again, for SAA subsidiary, the budget airline, that's Mango, it's gone under business rescue at the moment. Mango was doing very well. COVID adversely affected the airline. Then the other airlines are looking to see how they can start up again. But you know, without tourism, this is a huge tourism destination that has been affected by COVID. So COVID is a dark cloud hanging over the industry. Hopefully things will get better than they are at the moment.
And Betty, just very quickly, let's talk about the strike action among ANC workers. The party admits receiving notice of the strike, but does not address the reason for it, really.
Well, when you're not paid, you want to strike. I remember we brought that story to you in June when they had a picket outside the Luthuli House. That's the headquarters of the African Union. That was in June. But the spokesperson for the party, the national spokesperson, Mr. Pule Mabe, briefed the media today saying that the ANC is not broke, but it has cash flow problems. And this is not the first time it's having that kind of issue. So people don't want to go back to history, they just want to get paid. That's why they reached this point. There's a statement from the representatives of the workers saying that they will be speaking to the media by 11 a.m. local time on Friday, that's tomorrow, on the developments. We don't know if talks that are ongoing right now are yielding fruit, but there's so many problems with the ANC now over the issue of corruption. And we know that the tap has closed on several fronts for the party. The donors are keeping their distance over the issue of fighting corruption as well. That's one of the factors. It can't be the entire reason, but there's a problem, and they say they're talking about it. And we'll hear from the representatives of the workers tomorrow to know the next steps, if they're going on or staying on with the strike, or if talks with the leadership of the party has yielded anything.
All right, then, Betty, thank you so much for bringing us up to speed on the situation in the country.
Thank you so much.
Well, security matters now. Tension remains high in Tambura in western Equatorial State of South Sudan, with heavy gunfire being heard in and around the town. More than 28,000 people have left their homes, with some 2,000 seeking refuge at the UN-MISS temporary operating base. UN peacekeepers have been on the ground patrolling the town and surrounding villages, building confidence and engaging with local authorities, civil society organizations and religious groups to restore peace in the area. Amidst the tension, a UN high-level delegation, including the UN-MISS force commander and the UN acting humanitarian coordinator, visited the area to assess the humanitarian situation caused by the conflict.
The sad thing about this area is that this is an area where traditionally people have lived in coexistence amongst the different peoples and religions. We are now seeing displacement of around 28,000 people throughout the area. And the displaced people are being assisted by the humanitarian community. They're being protected by UNMISS. But what is particularly sad is that this didn't need to happen. And the thing that the people are asking for more than humanitarian assistance, is mediation. They want a political solution to this problem.
We will continue with our presence in this area. We are also thinking of increasing our presence, as the civilians here say they have food in their villages, but they are afraid of going there. We will provide security in areas where people can once at least go back and get the food that they want. We will mediate between the communities, help both the communities get together and resolve the disputes which have arisen so recently. And we hope and pray that the displaced are able to go back as soon as possible.
And our former Chadian president, Hissène Habré, is to be buried today. The former president died on Tuesday from COVID-19 complications while serving a life sentence in Senegal for crimes against humanity. His family said on Wednesday that he would be buried in the Senegalese capital, Dakar. Habré was found guilty in 2016 of crimes committed while he was president from 1982 to 1990. Still to come on the program. Nigerian power lifter Latifat Tijani wins gold in the female 45 kg event at the ongoing Paralympic Games in Tokyo. More details in a moment. Thanks for staying with us. Millions of young African lives could be saved after a study suggested the world's first malaria vaccine cut deaths and serious illness from the disease by up to 70%. A trial followed about 6,000 children aged 5 to 17 months in Burkina Faso and Mali, two countries afflicted heavily by the mosquito-borne disease. Normally, they would be given anti-malarial drugs 4 times during the rainy season when when malaria occurs predominantly in the region. While the use of medicine is highly effective in preventing malaria, the disease is still the main cause of death and serious illness among children under the age of 5 in countries such as Burkina Faso and Mali. But research into the vaccine published in the New England Journal of Medicine and coordinated by the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine with partners in Mali and Burkina Faso found the combination of the inoculation and anti-malarial drug could reduce the risk of death substantially. The vaccine was developed by a British company, GlaxoSmithKline. Joining us now is Chairman, Special Advisory Committee on COVID-19 in Nigeria and also on the Committee for Malaria Research in Nigeria, Professor Oyewale Tomori. He joins us from Ibadan. Professor, thank you so much for your time on the program.
It's my pleasure.
So, is this the best malaria research so far?
Well, I think it's good news that is coming up from Burkina Faso. Looking for malaria vaccine has been a long time, I think since the early 60s all through the 70s, but there wasn't much progress. But currently, I think we've had just the vaccine alone, which is, you said, developed by GlaxoSmithKline, protects between 30 to 50%. But when combined with treatment, then you can get a much higher level of protection. So I think it's a great thing that is on. A few part of the trial was also done in Nigeria, in Enugu. And so I think we're all glad that this is happening right now.
If a vaccine is being developed, why would it need to be paired with malaria treatment?
Yeah, actually, again, because the vaccine alone is what... as I mentioned, the protection that you get is between 30 to 50%, depending on the age group you are dealing with. And so you need to have that combination of the treatment with the vaccine to get the 70% that you mentioned. Just like even with it's not everybody who gets the vaccine. With even the current COVID we're dealing with, you still have people who have some breakthrough in that kind of situation. So the same thing happens with malaria. And the dose of the infection that you get, which will be much higher during the rainy season, could overwhelm your protection. And that's why you need both the treatment and the vaccine to combine together to get a much better effect.
Professor, you mentioned COVID. It's quite interesting that a vaccine for COVID was developed faster. What was the disadvantage for malaria?
First of all, there are two things. The malaria parasite is not like the virus of COVID. It's a virus, it's a parasite that changes quite often. And therefore, each of the time you develop a vaccine against it, the virus, the parasite itself manages to overcome that. And that's why it has taken this long period to get it on. In fact, even what they have now, as I said, is not really 100%. We're getting about 50% protection. Now, with COVID, we're dealing with a virus, which is, again, is a little simpler to deal with. And secondly, when you look at the issue of COVID, COVID is a major global problem. Malaria is an maybe African and tropical disease problem. If you don't take care of your problem, then nobody will take care of your problem for you. And that's what is happening.
All right, then, Professor Oyewale Tomori, thank you so much for your thoughts on the program.
My pleasure.
Moving on now, he's a professional long-distance runner, the 2016 and 2020 Olympic marathon winner, and set the world record in the marathon. Today, he hopes technology will take center stage as athletes strive for improvement and chase faster times in the future. We'll have more on that story, but let's take a look at this. We're already hearing good news from the Paralympics in Tokyo. Japan, one of the latest being the youngest competitor. 14-year-old Ugandan swimmer Usna Kukundakwe has set a personal best record. She says she hopes her success would help change attitudes towards people with disabilities in her home country. Kukundakwe failed to make the 100 meters backstroke final after finishing 6th in a heat. She said children born with disabilities in Uganda are often abandoned and hope her participation in the Paralympics would encourage parents to support their children. And a big congratulations to Nigerian powerlifter Latifat Tijani, who has won the gold medal in the female 45 kg event at the ongoing Tokyo Paralympic Games. Tijani made a top lift of 107 kg to secure the top prize in the category, leaving China's Jie Chui to settle for silver. The feat is an improvement on her previous record of 106 kg at the 2016 Summer Paralympics. She also won the bronze medal in the women's 45 kg event at the 2019 World Para Powerlifting Championships. And Channels Television sport editor Austin Okonapan joins us now for London for more on this. Austin, it's great to see you. And I can see the huge grin on your face as we talk about Latifat Tijani. She's well known to you, a big win. You saw this coming, I'm sure.
Yeah, good to be on the show, and it's good to see you too. And I'm pumped up to talk about the Paralympics and, of course, Latifat, who I know so well. It's so good to see her turn the silver medal she won at the Rio 2016 Olympics to gold in Tokyo. And I know Latifat so well because she would have been, mad at herself for not breaking the world record. She lifted 107. The world record stands at 108. And after she lifted 107 to win gold, she said she's mad at herself because back home, while training, she lifts 126, 127. But it's a beautiful story, because these Paralympians, when they compete, they send a message of hope to tell the world that impossible is nothing, that when you fall, you can rise again, Each time we compete at the Paralympics is a breath of fresh air. When you see these athletes turning, most of them confined to wheelchairs, yet unstoppable. This is Nigeria's 8th consecutive appearance at the competition since 1992. And you know what? These guys, they've won 70 medals for the country. They deserve our salutes.
Yeah, it's definitely inspirational. They're doing such great work. But what about the rest of the team? What are you hearing about their performance so far? The Paralympics has been known to impress much more than the Olympics itself.
Yes, Tenny, we went to Tokyo Paralympics with 22 athletes, 5 for athletics, 10 power lifters, 7 table tennis athletes, and 1 for rowing. And look, these guys, whenever they have an opportunity to compete, they just go out there and give their best. And that's why they put up, sterling performances. But it wasn't a good day on the opening day for Nigeria's table tennis players. They all crashed out of their single events. But hey, the fact that they compete is a beautiful story itself. We were so certain because we are the #1 ranked team in the world in powerlifting. So I knew that we were definitely going to win something today. Yakubu Adeshokan came so close to being on the podium, but he lost, I think, by just a lift, 1 kg, to finish 4th. And then Latifat came on to win this gold medal. There's still some other athletes to compete, particularly in powerlifting. We're waiting to see Lucy Ejike and some of the other guys who always go out there and impress whenever they go to lift for the country. We're still waiting to see what our athletes can do in athletics. and of course rowing. But I always de-emphasize winning at this stage, Tenny, for this para-powerlifter, like the Ugandan girl you talked about her story. She didn't get to qualify for the final, but she made record as the youngest athlete to compete at the Paralympics. Isn't that a beautiful story for Africa? She's just 14.
But Austin, just very quickly before I let you go, who's your favorite to come back with the most wins?
Definitely the para-powerlifters, Tenny. They will come back with the most medals.
All right, then we'll wait and see. Austin, thank you so much, and do stay safe.
Thank you so much, Tenny. Always a delight to be with you guys.
And that's the program today. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Tenyola Shiboale. Bye for now.